Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I'm Troy David, and this is everything you needed to know about the Fantastic Four. Get excited about the upcoming Fox film, The Fantastic Four, premiering not too far into the future. The story of the Fantastic Four in this film is going to be predicated very heavily on the 2004 Ultimate Fantastic Four series. But what you needed to know about the Fantastic Four is that their origins are actually rooted in a much earlier period in time. November 1961, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby gave us Fantastic Four #1, introducing us to four brand new superheroes who defied all the conventions of classic superheroes at the time. They didn't wear costumes, they had code names, but they actually used their own real given names in conversation. Their identities were very public. They lived in New York, not a fictitious city like Metropolis or Gotham or Central City, but in a city that we actually knew and knew quite well. Their headquarters, the Baxter Building, is a real building, and that began what we now enjoy today, or what we did enjoy before the end of their series, as America's first superhero family. The stories of the Fantastic Four were built very heavily on Reed Richards and his romantic interest, Susan Storm, her kid brother, Johnny Storm, and Reed's lifelong friend, Ben Grimm. They are transformed into the Fantastic Four after stealing a rocket, taking it into space, rushing the flight so that they could beat the Russians into space, a very Cold War theme, as many Marvel books were at that time. The Fantastic Four returned to Earth, found they had these fantastic powers, and decided to dedicate themselves to defending mankind from whatever threats were going to come along, such as the alien shape changers, the Skrulls, or the criminal illusionist, the Miracle Man. The fourth issue of the Fantastic Four brought the Submariner, character from the Golden Age, back into mainstream comics, and the Fantastic Four defended New York against the rampage of the Submariner, who had been gone for quite some time. Issue #5 gave us Doctor Doom, not quite as recognizable as the iconic figure that he would grow into, but with many Stan Lee characters, we were given some very interesting origins that were built upon as writers and successive creative teams changed, and the character became more and more of the iconic giant that we recognize today. Issue #6 of the Fantastic Four gave us the first supervillain team-up, Submariner and Doctor Doom together. And even though Doom turned on Namor siding with the Fantastic Four, there was still some friction and animosity between the characters. Namor was enamored with Susan Storm, making for a somewhat uncomfortable love triangle for Reed Richards. The Fantastic Four, again written by Stan Lee, illustrated by Jack Kirby, featured a great many first appearances and significant key elements in the stories through its 102-issue run under the pen of Jack Kirby. As the issues successively went on, we continued to see first appearance after first appearance. We would get the Super Skrull, we would get the Molecule Man, we would get the Watcher, Red Ghost and his super apes, Red Ghost himself, a communist villain, again, Cold War themes were prevalent. We would also see in the 48th, 49th, and 50th issue the first trilogy story with the Silver Surfer and Galactus. Huge cosmic concepts brought to New York, and the Fantastic Four were right there front and center. Actually, just prior to that, we were introduced to the Inhumans, and afterwards of that, we were introduced in issue #66 to the character that would become Adam Warlock. First appearing as him, he would later take on the name Warlock and then the first name Adam, and we all know about the Infinity Gauntlet and the Infinity Crusade and the Infinity Watch and everything that came after. Jim Starlin would do some amazing things with Adam Warlock in his run. That, however, will be a different everything you need to know. I could go on for hours about the number of characters and the number of significant stories in the Fantastic Four. I won't bore you with that, but I will skip ahead that there were 5 volumes of the Fantastic Four. Volume #2, The Heroes Reborn, was 13 issues of the Fantastic Four reimagined and modernized, not well received, as most of the Heroes Reborn stories weren't at that time period. But when the heroes came back in Heroes Return, that volume, Volume 3, ran for a significantly greater number of issues, was much better handled, returned the characters to the mainstream story along with the Avengers, Captain America, Iron Man, the Incredible Hulk, etc. So the Fantastic Four were back, and we actually picked up the series numbering, continuing Volume 1 series numbering until it all ended in 2003, and then we would roll on forward from there. Now, while the Fantastic Four was running, a second title was introduced under the Ultimates imprint. The Ultimates imprint, which began with Ultimate Spider-Man and continued on with the Ultimate X-Men and the Ultimates, Ultimate Marvel Team-Up, limited series with Ultimate Daredevil, Ultimate Elektra, etc. Well, the Ultimate Fantastic Four were given their own title, which ran 60 issues and 2 annuals, and featured the reimagined characters, younger incarnations with very different sensibilities, personalities that we recognize, but character traits that were not present in the very early goings. Reed Richards, previously the older, charismatic leader of the team, was reimagined as a younger child prodigy exploring alternate dimensions and potential energy sources. His friend, Ben Grimm, was on hand in his high school years to prevent him from being bullied. His girlfriend, Susan Storm, was also a scientific genius. She was not the 1960s Shrinking Violet. She was actually a very dynamic, take charge, even headstrong character. Her kid brother, Johnny Storm, might have been the most recognizable from one incarnation to the next, and the 4 characters continued to have the elements of being a functional yet dysfunctional family, 4 characters bound together by their stories and continuing on and influencing everyone around them. Now, the Ultimate Fantastic Four led us at its end into the Ultimatum limited series, and we saw some great sweeping changes from Ultimatum and onwards from there. And I was mentioning earlier that the film, the new upcoming Fox film, The Fantastic Four, will feature storylines that are much more similar to the Ultimate Fantastic Four. Reed's exploration of the End Zone is what will release the energies that mutate the characters. We will see the reimagined Doctor Doom. He was reimagined in the Ultimate series as Victor Van Dam, whose family lineage tied all the way back to the Transylvanian Count Dracula. This Doctor Doom will be different from either of his 2 comic incarnations, as far as I can understand it now. But in any case, what we will have is something that is predicated much more in the modernistic sensibilities of the storytelling. So moving away from the Cold War roots and moving more into energy exploration and energy diversification, etc. But we're still going to have 4 characters with 4 personalities. We're still going to have those internal dynamic clashes. We should still have a very good story and a very enjoyable film with some fantastic special effects. So, from Troy David here at Flashback Comics, I invite you to join me in seeing The Fantastic Four when it's released, and come into the store, Flashback Comics and Games here in Woodbridge, Virginia, and I will happily tell you everything you need to know about The Fantastic Four. Flashback Comics and Games, check out the Troy David spotlights that appear here. Also, check out the new comic release Wednesday, our top 5 picks. Me and my co-host Kevin Goswan from comicsonline.com give you our top 5 picks for each week. And also check out the Flashback Comics and Games website. Be sure to like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter.